tense, the past continuous tense, the past perfect tense, and the past perfect continuous tense. And we talked about in detail of the use of the past perfect tense in different situations. One of the first, if you remember, being an action that talks about a completed action before another action in the past. Another action in the past. It talks about a completed action before another completed action in the past, or it represents that. Let's see an example, a quick example for this one. For an example, they had gone to the supermarket, before they went to school. So, this is one example of an action happening before another action in the past. Both actions have what? Happened in the past. But one action happened before another action in the past. That is one way we said we use the past perfect tense. The other way we said we will use it is an action of duration. An action of duration before another action in the past. This is the second way we said we use the past perfect. Let's see an example. I had bought the ticket and kept it for a few weeks before I used it. So if you see here, the ticket has already been bought and has been kept for a few weeks. That is what an action of duration before another action in the past or present. It is similar to the first one, but in the second one, we focus more on the duration of the time of that action happening. The third one that we have seen, conditional statements. Conditional statements. We use the past perfect to talk about conditional statements. Remember, conditional statements or conditional sentences, they use the if clause very often. So we're going to use that to give an example. If he had been here, comma, he would have been very angry. He would have been very angry. So we use the past perfect to talk about a conditional statement or a conditional sentence. That did not happen. You have to realize when we use the past perfect with conditional sentence, we're talking about a past action that did not happen. And we also use it to talk about reported speech. Reported speech is also one way that we could use the past perfect tense. Let's give an example. He had said that he would be here early. He had said that he would be here early. So again, we have used what? We have used the past perfect with what? With another form of reporting word. He had said that he would be here early. So reported speech. Reported speech is talking about what someone had already discussed and had a conversation with, and we are reporting what someone had already said. The last one is dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction with the past. When we want to talk about our dissatisfaction with the past, we also use the past perfect. When we use the past perfect to talk about dissatisfaction of the past, it is very similar to conditional sentence. The idea is very similar to conditional sentence. For example, they wished they had woken up early. So this is what? An idea that they wish they had done something, but they have not done that. So it is what? Dissatisfaction of the past. These are the 5 ways that we talked about, the way we could use the past perfect in the other class. And today's class is colon, and semicolon. What are colons and semicolons? How do we use them? Why do we use them? And what are their differences? A lot of people usually mix up these two when they're writing sentences. So how do we use them? In what situations do we use them? And how do they differ? And what makes them similar as well? What makes them similar is their symbols are very similar, which confuses people. And they're both punctuation marks, and that also can confuse people. And what makes them different is we use them in different situations. So their use makes them different. So let's see them in detail. But before we see these two in detail, let's talk about punctuation mark. What is punctuation mark? Punctuation mark. What is a punctuation mark? A punctuation mark is symbol or symbols, okay? Symbol that is used to separate a sentence, a phrase, and a clause. It could also be used to list out things. Different lists, we use punctuations. There are different punctuations, a lot of punctuations. They are, for example, an exclamation mark, an exclamation point. This is the symbol for an exclamation point. We use it to talk about different emotions, or we use it in a sentence to show people's emotions. It could be very strong emotions like surprise or excitement or different kinds of emotions. We can also use, and we use this a lot, periods. Periods, also known as full stop. This is the symbol for a period or a full stop. So we use this in a declarative sentence. At the end of a declarative sentence, we use periods or full stops. This is a very, very common punctuation mark. What else? Question mark. Another very common punctuation mark is what? Question mark. This is the symbol of a question mark. When we have a question sentence, we use it at the end of the question sentence. We also have a lot. Let's give some examples. For example, we have hyphen. Hyphen. This is the symbol for a hyphen, a very short one, and it is in the middle, not at the top, not at the bottom, but in the middle. So a hyphen. So the difference between a hyphen and a dash is that dashes are at the bottom and they're longer than a hyphen. A hyphen is smaller and it is shown at the middle of a writing. So dashes are a bit longer and they are shown at the bottom. What else? It also used to represent when a pause, when a person pauses, it is shown a dash. What else? What other punctuations can we think about? For example, colon and semicolon. These are also what? Colon with the two dots and semicolon, semicolon, dot with a comma. We also have another very famous and very common punctuation, comma. A symbol for a comma. So we also have lots and lots, like parentheses, like square brackets, and so many others, like ellipses with the three dots. And we have so many punctuation marks. And today we are going to focus on colon and semicolon. That is our focus for today. Let's begin by colon, talking about colon. What is a colon? A colon is a punctuation mark that resembles two vertical dots. That resembles two vertical dots. Two vertical dots. So this is what? A colon. And what are the uses of a colon? Or how do we use colons in a sentence, in phrases, in different ways, okay? Let's see the uses. The first one, we could use colon, the way we use colon is to separate two related sentences. Separate two related sentences, okay? Let's give an example. I had a really great idea. This is a sentence. It's a sentence, and we use colon here to separate it from the other sentence, which is related to it. I had a really great idea. I would become a professional writer. We don't use full stop here. We use what? An exclamation mark, because we are showing strong emotions, right? I had a really great idea is what's showing very strong emotions. I would become a professional writer. So two ideas or two sentences here, separated by a colon here. Two sentences that are related. This is the difference between colon and semicolon. They are related, and one shows or gives more information on the other. If you see the second one here, it gives more information and it's given more emphasis than the first one. I would become a professional writer. So this has what? More emphasis. And that's why we use a colon here. The second way we could use a colon is to separate a sentence that is followed by a phrase. Could be a phrase. But the first one has to be a sentence. But the second one could be a very short phrase. For example, you only need 2 things to succeed. Colon, time, and money. If you see here, we have 2 ideas separated by a colon, right? The first one is a finished idea. You will only need 2 things to succeed. The idea is finished, but it is followed with a phrase. So we use, or an unfinished idea. So we use colon to separate these 2. That is the second way we could use a colon. What about a third way we could use it? A third way we could use it is to talk about ratios. To talk about ratios. For example, if you are a very big fan of football or soccer or sports, you compare 2 teams. When you compare 2 teams, what do you use to, for example, talk about who scored this much and who scored that much? If there are 2 teams, those 2 teams have to score some points. And how do you talk about it? Or what kind of punctuation do you use to talk about that? You use what? Colon. For example, the odds of winning are 3 to 1. 3 to 1. So comparing 2 teams, one of them is going to score 3 and the other one is going to score 1. So we use ratios to talk about, in ratios we use colon to talk about 2 different ideas or 2 different levels having numbers. Okay, what else? In what way another way can we use colon to talk about, it's a very common way to talk about time as well. In time, we separate the minutes and the seconds, or the minutes and the hour. We use time. For example, the movie starts at 7:45 p.m. So this is what? We are talking about a time. A time that is, or that uses a colon. So in colon, one of the uses of colon is to talk about time and ratio. And what else? We could also use it to talk about titles. We could also use it to talk about titles. How could we use it to talk about titles? A lot of books, for example, a lot of books have extra ideas. For example, there's the main topic, and then there are extra ideas about that topic or that title. So some writers use more than one topic or one idea to show a topic, for example. Or we could also use colon in titles when we are talking about one topic that has genres or subgenres or different, trilogies. For example, I will give you an example. The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings is a very famous book, and it has 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. So when people want to know which book exactly that they want to read or which book it is, they specifically add the parts that are there. For example, if you are talking about the first book, you add a colon, The Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship of the Ring. So this is the first part. What about if it is the second book? If we are talking about the second book, and then we say, The Lord of the Rings, The Lord of the Rings, colon, the two towers. The two towers. So this is the second book. So the topic is, the main topic or the main title of this book is The Lord of the Rings. But the first book is called, it's an additional, The Fellowship of the Ring. The second book has an additional that is called The Two Towers. And the last one, The Lord of the Rings, again, colon, because we are giving an additional information and in a title. So, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. So this is the last part in the trilogy, in the 3-book series. So the first one is called The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. The second one is called The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. And the last one is called The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. So these are titles, and they are all titles, but we use colon in the middle to separate them and to give us more information. It gives us more information. We know this is the first book. It gives us more information. We know the third book. And again, we know it's the second book because it has the two towers at the end of the title. So we use it to talk about titles. What else? We can also use it to talk about quotations. Okay? When people have given different quotes in different times, and we can use that to talk about quotations. So we can use colon and quotations. Let's give an example. The guides always gave the same advice. Colon here. And we have a punctuation. Why? Because it is a quotation. Leave them alone. Leave them alone, comma. They will leave you alone. Okay? Since it is something someone said, it is in a quotation, okay? Quotation mark. A quotation mark here is also one punctuation. And it's used in reporting speech. The guides always gave the same advice. Colon, leave them alone, they would leave you alone. So we used it in a quotation. So using colon in quotations when we are talking about ratios, when we're talking about time, and when we are talking about a sentence that is followed by a phrase or an uncompleted idea, we also use colon, and we also use it to talk about or to join two sentences, okay? Two related sentences, one emphasized and one not that so much emphasized, but two of them are related and they are completed sentences, so we join them using a colon. So all of these ideas are the ways we could use a colon. What about semicolons? Semicolon. What is a semicolon? A semicolon is a punctuation mark that resembles a dot over a comma. This is what? The symbol for it, a dot, and then a comma. This is the symbol of semicolon. So unlike colon that has so many different uses in a sentence or in a phrase or separating different ideas, semicolon only has two most commonly known uses. The first one, especially the first part, is the most common use of semicolon. It is used to separate. It is used to separate two related sentences or two independent sentences. So this is the very common use of semicolon. Two independent sentences can be separated or can be joined using a semicolon without conjunctions. So usually if we see in sentence formation, in sentence structure, two independent clauses are joined using what? Conjunctions. We have conjunctions like but, yet, so. All of these conjunctions, they are used to separate two independent clauses. But in this case, we could use semicolon to separate two independent ideas or two independent sentences. For example, Martha has gone to the library. Semicolon. Her sister has gone to the supermarket. So, two independent ideas. Martha has gone to the library. It is an independent idea, can be on its own. Her sister has gone to the supermarket. Again, another independent idea, which is connected and joined by a semicolon. So this is the most common use of a semicolon, to separate two independent ideas without conjunctions. We could also, the other use of a semicolon is we could use semicolon to separate two ideas using a conjunctive adverb here. The second way we could use a semicolon is it is used to separate, again, two clauses with conjunctive adverbs. Let's see an example. I am going home. Semicolon. Moreover, don't forget, after your conjunctive adverb, you have what? A comma. I am or I'm staying there. I'm staying there. I'm going home. I'm staying there. So two independent clauses again, but joined by what? A conjunctive adverb. A conjunctive adverb. So these are the two most common ways, especially the first one being the most common ways of using a semicolon. So since we have seen this many examples and we also have seen their definitions and their uses, now let's do some activities, some exercises together. Exercise. Put the correct punctuation marks in the sentences below. In the given sentences below. The first one. Most of my hobbies are things that I can do alone. Hiking, riding, and running. Number two, the order was requested 6 weeks ago. Therefore, comma, I expected the shipment to arrive by now. Number three, there was something that kept getting in our way. Timing. Number four, the prisoner uttered, leave me alone. Leave me alone. So these four are questions I want you to do. This is going to be your classwork, and I will give you 2 minutes to 3 minutes to finish this, and then we will do it together and see how well you have done. Okay, I am sure you all did a great job in answering these questions. And let's see if you are correct. And let's do correction. The first one, most of my hobbies are things that I could do alone: hiking, riding, and running. So we are listing things. When we usually list things, we use what? Colon to do it. So most of my hobbies are things that I could do alone. Colon, yes. Hiking, riding, and running. These are hobbies that I usually do alone. What about number 2? The order was requested 6 weeks ago. Therefore, I expected the shipment to arrive by now. Even when you read these kind of things, there is a pause, right? We say what? The order was requested 6 weeks ago. And then there is a slight pause. Therefore, I expected the shipment to arrive by now. So we said one of the ways we use semicolon is by or with conjunctive adverbs. We have a conjunctive adverb here, right? And before it, we must use what? A semicolon. We must use a semicolon. Number 3, there was something that kept getting in our way. Timing. Again, here there is a slight pause, right? There was something that kept getting in our way, a slight pause. And after that slight pause, what comes after? One word. It's not a completed idea. So we said if it's not a completed idea followed by a completed idea, we use what? Colon. So here we have colon. So we give more explanation to the first idea. Okay, the last one. The prisoner uttered, "Leave me alone." Again, if you remember some of the uses that we have talked about, colon, we said we use with quotations, we use colon. And this here is a quotation. It is said by the prisoner. And it's also within a quotation mark. So the prisoner uttered. The prisoner uttered, colon, "Leave me alone." So these are all the classworks that we did today, and I'm sure you all got them right. These are very easy if you look at the examples and explanations we have seen earlier. And this is all for today's class, and I hope you have enjoyed it and have learned so many things from it. And I wish to see you all in the next class. Have a good time.
Babies, are you ready? Here we go in 3, 2, 1, crawl. All right. This is going to be intense. All right, parents, make sure behind the start line. Parents, make sure you're behind the start line. All right.